What if the Galactic Republic never became the Empire? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. The office of Supreme Chancellor Palpatine crackles with energy as purple lightning illuminates the Coruscant skyline. Mace Windu stands resolute, his lightsaber humming as he advances on the Sith Lord cowering in the corner. Behind him, Kit Fisto, Aegon Kohler, and Saesee Tiin lie dead, their sacrifice not in vain. The confrontation has reached its critical moment. Palpatine's face twists in fury as he unleashes another torrent of Force lightning. But Windu deflects it with his blade, the energy crackling back toward the Chancellor. "You are under arrest, my lord. The oppression of the Sith will never return. You have lost." Palpatine's yellow eyes burn with hatred as he continues his assault. But Windu's Va'apad technique feeds on the darkness, growing stronger with each passing second. The Corran Master steps forward, his blade inching closer to the Sith Lord's throat. Suddenly, the doors burst open and Anakin Skywalker rushes in, his face a mask of confusion and desperation. He sees Palpatine on the ground, seemingly helpless, and Windu prepared to strike. "Master Windu, wait. He must stand trial." But as the words leave his mouth, something shifts. Anakin's eyes widen as a vision flashes through his mind. Not the nightmare of Padme dying in childbirth, but something else. Something real. Through the Force, he feels her terror. Not future terror, but present danger. Someone is moving through the Senate apartment building, heading toward her location. And in that crystalline moment of clarity, Anakin realizes the truth. Palpatine told him about these visions. Palpatine guided him toward them. Palpatine has been manipulating his fear all along. The young Jedi's hand trembles as he reaches out through the Force, sensing the assassin's presence more clearly now. A droid, one of Palpatine's contingencies, programmed to eliminate Padme if the Sith Lord's plans failed. Insurance to ensure Anakin's fall even in defeat. But Anakin isn't falling. Not today. He must live. "I need him." Windu turns slightly, his expression stern but not without compassion. "To save your wife? Think, Anakin. He's the one who threatened her. He's been controlling your visions, feeding your fear. Can't you see it?" The words hit Anakin like a physical blow. He staggers back, his mind racing. Every conversation, every knowing smile, every perfectly timed revelation. Palpatine always knew exactly what to say, exactly when to say it. And now, with his plans crumbling, he's trying to ensure Anakin's fall by making those visions real. But he's failed. Anakin can save her. Not through the dark side, not through Palpatine, but through the Force itself. You're right. I can feel it now. There's a droid heading to her location. One of his contingencies, then go, save her. I will finish this. Anakin doesn't hesitate. He turns and runs from the office, his connection to Padme guiding him through the Force. Behind him, he hears Palpatine's scream of rage, the Sith Lord realizing his final manipulation has failed. Mace Windu raises his lightsaber, and with a swift, decisive strike, Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, Darth Sidious, falls. The blade cuts through him, and the most dangerous Sith Lord in a millennium dies in his own office. His grand plan shattered at the moment of its culmination. But even in death, Palpatine has set chaos in motion. Across the galaxy, his final command echoes through the neural implants of the clone army. Execute Order 66. On hundreds of worlds, clone troopers turn on their Jedi generals. But the command comes too early, before it was meant to be triggered. Some Jedi sense the betrayal through the Force and escape. Others are cut down where they stand. The galaxy descends into confusion as the carefully orchestrated plan falls apart at the seams. On Kashyyyk, Yoda feels the disturbance in the Force moments before Commander Gree raises his blaster. The ancient Jedi Master's lightsaber ignites and he cuts down the clones before they can fire. His eyes close in sorrow, feeling hundreds of Jedi lights snuffed out across the galaxy. But not all, not everyone. Many survive where in another timeline they would have perished. On Utapau, Obi-Wan Kenobi is already moving before Commander Cody gives the order to fire. He leaps from Boga's back as the cannon blast vaporizes the space where he stood. The Jedi Master tumbles down into the sinkhole, using the Force to slow his fall. His mind races, trying to comprehend what just happened. His own troops, his friends, trying to kill him. Something is terribly wrong. On Megiddo, Ki-Adi-Mundi deflects the first volley of blaster fire, his blue blade a blur. He doesn't understand why his troops have turned, but he knows he must survive to find answers. On Felucia, Aayla Secura feels the betrayal a heartbeat before it happens, and Force pushes her attackers back, disappearing into the fungal forests. On Cato Neimoidia, Plo Koon senses the shift and ejects from his starfighter before his own pilots can destroy him. The survival rate is still terrible, but it's not the complete annihilation it would have been. Hundreds of Jedi die, but hundreds also live. Anakin reaches the Senate apartment building in record time, his speeder screaming through Coruscant traffic. He can feel the droid now, its cold mechanical presence moving through the hallways. It's almost at Padme's door. Anakin abandons the speeder in midair, leaping across 50 meters of open space and crashing through the apartment window in an explosion of glass and permacrete. He rolls to his feet, lightsaber igniting, just as the door opens and a modified IG series assassin droid steps through. The droid's photoreceptors lock onto Anakin, and its combat protocols immediately activate. Blaster bolts fill the air, but Anakin deflects them effortlessly, advancing on the machine. Behind the droid, he sees Padme, her hand protectively over her swollen belly, fear in her eyes. The sight fills him with determination. This is what he should have been doing all along. Not seeking dark power to prevent a possible future, but acting in the present to protect those he loves. His lightsaber carves through the droid in 3 swift strokes, the machine collapsing in a shower of sparks and severed components. Anakin deactivates his blade and rushes to Padme, pulling her into his arms. She's shaking, tears streaming down her face, but she's alive. She's safe. And suddenly, Anakin knows with absolute certainty that she's going to stay that way. Not because of Sith powers or forbidden knowledge, but because he chose the right path, because he trusted his friends and the Force itself. Anakin, what's happening? The Senate is in chaos. There are reports of Jedi being killed across the galaxy. Palpatine was a Sith Lord. Master Windu killed him, but he's activated some kind of contingency plan. The clones are turning on the Jedi, but why? How long has this been planned? A long time, I think. Maybe since the war began. Maybe longer. But it's over now. He's dead, and we're going to fix this. At the Jedi Temple, Mace Windu stands in the council chamber as surviving Jedi begin to arrive. Yoda hobbles in, his face grave but his presence steady. Obi-Wan appears via hologram from Utapau, his robe singed and his expression haunted. Ki-Adi-Mundi, Shakti, Luminara Unduli, Kit Fisto's former Padawan Nadar Veb, and a handful of others. Out of 10,000 Jedi, perhaps 1,000 survive. The losses are catastrophic, but it could have been worse, much worse. A great darkness has fallen, but extinguished it has been. The Sith Lord who manipulated this war, dead he is. The clones turned on us, our own troops. How is that possible? Windu's expression darkens. Inhibitor chips, implanted in their brains during the cloning process. They had no choice. They were slaves to programming, forced to betray us against their will. Then they're not responsible. But who ordered this? Who knew about it? The Sith Lord, obviously. But there may be others. Administrators, scientists, politicians who helped create and maintain this conspiracy. We need to investigate. We need answers, and we need to address the Senate. The Republic is leaderless. The military is in chaos. If we don't act quickly, the galaxy will tear itself apart. As if summoning it through the Force, Bail Organa's hologram appears in the chamber. The senator from Alderaan looks exhausted but determined. Behind him, several other senators can be seen, including Mon Mothma of Chandrila and Padme Amidala of Naboo. The Jedi immediately notice Anakin standing beside Padme, his hand protectively on her shoulder. Masters, we need to speak urgently. The Senate is in complete disorder. With Palpatine dead and no clear line of succession, dozens of senators are claiming the right to assume emergency powers. Some are even suggesting that the military should take control until order is restored. That cannot happen. The Republic must remain a democracy even in crisis. Especially in crisis, we agree completely. That's why we've been gathering evidence. Palpatine kept meticulous records of his machinations. His private files contain proof of his manipulation of both sides of the war. Communications with separatist leaders, financial records of his secret accounts, even recordings of him discussing his plans. He was arrogant enough to document his own treachery. Then we must present this to the Senate immediately. The people must know the truth about what Palpatine was and what he tried to do, but be warned. Not everyone will accept this truth easily. Palpatine had many allies in the Senate, people who benefited from his policies and his war. They will resist any attempt to reform the system. Then resist them we must. The Republic has been corrupted from within. Expose that corruption we shall, or doomed to repeat it we will be. The Senate chamber erupts in chaos as the evidence is presented. Holographic recordings show Palpatine speaking with Dooku, revealing that both sides of the war were manufactured. Financial records prove that he embezzled trillions of credits from Republic coffers to fund his secret projects. Communications reveal his manipulation of key senators and military officials. The sheer scope of the conspiracy is staggering, and many senators sit in stunned silence as the truth unfolds before them, but others react with anger and denial. Senator Orn Frita of Ryloth stands, his leku twitching with indignation. "This is preposterous. You're trying to tarnish the reputation of a great man who gave his life to protect the Republic. This is nothing more than a Jedi coup." Mazameda, the Vice-Chancellor, nods in agreement. The Jedi have always sought to control the Republic from the shadows. Now they've murdered the Chancellor and fabricated evidence to justify their actions. I call for their immediate arrest and the activation of emergency protocols. The chamber descends into shouting matches as senators take sides. But then Padme Amidala steps forward, her voice cutting through the chaos. She's visibly pregnant now, her condition impossible to hide. But she stands with quiet dignity and speaks with the authority of someone who has been fighting for truth since she was 14 years old. I was there. In the Chancellor's office when the Jedi arrested him, I saw him use Force lightning. I heard him reveal himself as Darth Sidious, and I watched as he tried to have me assassinated when his plans began to fall apart. The evidence is not fabricated. The conspiracy is real, and if we do not face that truth, we condemn ourselves to repeat the same mistakes. Her words carry weight, and slowly the tide begins to turn. More senators come forward, adding their voices to the call for reform. Mon Mothma propose immediate investigations into all of Palpatine's appointees and policies. Bail Organa calls for the restoration of the Senate's oversight powers that had been eroded during the war. Senator Garm Bel Iblis of Corellia demands a complete restructuring of the military command to prevent any future abuse of power. But even as the Senate begins to organize itself, reports come flooding in from across the galaxy. On hundreds of worlds, fighting has broken out. Some clone units continue to follow Order 66, unable to overcome their programming. Others have managed to resist, but the confusion has created chaos. Worse, opportunistic warlords and criminal syndicates are taking advantage of the disorder to seize territory. The Republic is fracturing, and without strong leadership, it may collapse entirely. In the Outer Rim, the situation is even more dire. Grand Moff Tarkin, stationed on Ariadu, sees the chaos as an opportunity. He's long believed that the Republic is too weak, too bound by debate and democracy to truly govern. With Palpatine dead, Tarkin decides to implement his own vision. He seizes control of the Seswena sector, declaring it under military governance until order can be restored. Other military commanders follow his lead, creating their own fiefdoms across the galaxy. On Coruscant, the Jedi Council gathers again to discuss the growing crisis. Anakin stands before them, no longer a knight, but not quite a master. His actions in saving Padme and resisting Palpatine's manipulation have earned him respect, but the revelation of his secret marriage has created complications. The Council debates his fate even as the galaxy burns around them. Broken the code you have, young Skywalker. Attachment forbidden it is. Known this, you did, I did, Master Yoda, and I'm not going to apologize for it. I love Padme, and we're going to have a child. 2 children, actually. Twins. I understand if you want to expel me from the Order, but I won't abandon my family. Not now, not ever. The Council exchanges glances. In another time, Anakin's defiance might have led to his expulsion. But these are not normal times. The Jedi Order itself is on the brink of extinction. Hundreds of their members are dead, killed by an enemy that manipulated them into becoming soldiers rather than peacekeepers. The old ways, the old certainties no longer seem so certain. Perhaps attachment and love are not the same thing, as we have always assumed. The other council members turn to him in surprise. Mace Windu, the strictest adherent to the code, is suggesting that the rules might be wrong. He continues, his voice thoughtful. Anakin was attached to Padme, yes, but it was his love for her that saved him from falling to the dark side. He saw through Palpatine's manipulation because his connection to her was real and strong. Perhaps we have been too rigid in our interpretation of the code. For 1,000 years, the same path we have followed, and to the brink of destruction it has led us. Change we must. Or die, the Jedi will. The Council votes, and Anakin is allowed to remain a Jedi. But more than that, the Order itself begins to change. New interpretations of the code are debated. The role of Jedi as generals and soldiers is questioned. Yoda proposes that the Order should decentralize, with smaller temples on many worlds, rather than one massive temple on Coruscant. The era of the Jedi as an arm of the Republic military must end. They must return to being advisors and peacekeepers, not warriors. But even as the Jedi begin their internal reforms, the external threats continue to grow. The Separatist Council, hiding on Mustafar, receives word of Palpatine's death. Without their secret master, they're thrown into disarray. Some, like Newt Gunray, want to continue the fight, hoping to use the Republic's chaos to achieve victory. Others, like Wat Tambor and San Hill, are more interested in protecting their corporate assets. The unity that Palpatine imposed through fear and manipulation quickly evaporates. Obi-Wan Kenobi volunteers to negotiate with the Separatist leadership. He takes Anakin with him, and together they travel to Mustafar under a flag of truce. The meeting is tense, with battle droids lining the conference room and Separatist leaders eyeing the Jedi with suspicion. But Obi-Wan speaks with calm authority, explaining the truth about Palpatine and his manipulation of both sides. Your war was a lie. Every battle, every death, orchestrated by a Sith Lord who played both sides against each other. He used your legitimate grievances to fuel a conflict that served only his own ambitions. But he's dead now, and you have a choice. Continue fighting a war that benefits no one, or negotiate a genuine peace that addresses the concerns that drove you to secede in the first place. Why should we trust you? The Republic has oppressed the Outer Rim for centuries. You're right. The Republic has failed you. The core worlds have taken your resources while giving little in return. Representation in the Senate is unequal. Taxation is unfair. These are real problems that need real solutions. But war isn't the answer. Reform is. And if the Republic refuses to reform, if the core worlds simply try to impose their will by force once the crisis is over, Anakin steps forward, his voice firm. Then we'll stand with you, not as separatists against the Republic, but as citizens demanding justice. The Republic claims to represent all its people. We'll hold it to that promise. The negotiations continue for days, with Obi-Wan and Anakin slowly building trust with the Separatist leadership. Not all of them are willing to negotiate. Newt Gunray remains defiant, calling for continued war. But others, particularly leaders like Mina Bonteri, who survived the war in this timeline, are open to a peaceful resolution. They propose a federal system where Outer Rim worlds have greater autonomy and representation. The Republic would become more of a confederation, with the Senate acting as a mediator between regions rather than an authoritarian central government. But back in the core, the Imperial remnant is growing stronger. Tarkin has consolidated his power in the Siswena sector and is reaching out to other military commanders and governors who share his authoritarian views. Maz Amedda, stripped of his position as Vice-Chancellor, flees Coruscant and joins Tarkin's movement. Together, they begin crafting a narrative. The Jedi betrayed the Republic, murdered the beloved Chancellor, and plunged the galaxy into chaos. Only strong military leadership can restore order and security. Their message resonates in systems that have been devastated by the Clone Wars. After years of fighting, many people are willing to trade freedom for stability. Tarkin's forces are well-equipped, disciplined, and united under a clear command structure. In contrast, the Republic appears weak and divided, unable to agree on basic policies or leadership. Several core worlds, including Coruscant's neighboring systems, begin to waver in their loyalty. The situation reaches a breaking point when Tarkin makes his move. Using seized Republic ships and clone troopers still loyal to his command, he launches a surprise attack on Coruscant. His goal is to capture the Senate, install himself as Supreme Commander, and impose order through military rule. He believes he's saving the Republic by destroying its democratic traditions. In his mind, democracy has failed, and only autocracy can provide the strength necessary to survive. The attack comes at dawn, with Imperial remnant forces dropping out of hyperspace above Coruscant. Tarkin's fleet is smaller than the Republic's defense force, but it's concentrated and coordinated. The Republic ships, operating under divided command structures, struggle to organize a coherent response. Within hours, Imperial forces have breached the planetary shields and are deploying ground troops across the Senate district. In the Jedi Temple, alarms blare as the attack unfolds. Anakin and Obi-Wan are in the council chambers when the reports come in. They exchange a glance, and without needing to speak, they know what must be done. The Republic isn't perfect. It's flawed, corrupt in places, inefficient in others. But it represents something worth fighting for, the idea that people should govern themselves, that democracy is better than tyranny, even when it's messy and difficult. Master Yoda, we need to defend the Senate. If Tarkin takes control, everything we've been working toward will be lost. Got you must. Rally the defense, you will. But remember this, Skywalker. Fight not out of hatred or anger. Fight because you love what the Republic can become. Anakin nods, understanding the lesson. This is different from the Clone Wars. He's not fighting for the Republic as it is, but for what it could be. He's fighting for the chance to build something better. He and Obi-Wan race to the hangar, where Jedi starfighters are being prepped for launch. Other Jedi join them, perhaps 50 in all. It's a fraction of what the Order once was, but they're united in purpose. In the Senate building, Padme and Bail Organa are coordinating the civilian evacuation. She's in the final weeks of her pregnancy now, and Bail keeps urging her to leave, but she refuses. Too many senators are looking to her for leadership, and she won't abandon them. Mon Mothma stands beside her, organizing the defense of the building with whatever security forces remain loyal. Tarkin's troops are advancing through the streets, their precision and discipline evident in every movement. These are clone troopers, who never overcame their programming, who still believe they're serving the Republic by following military authority. Leading them are officers who share Tarkin's vision of an ordered, militaristic galaxy. They don't see themselves as traitors. In their minds, they're patriots saving the Republic from itself. The space battle above Coruscant is brutal and chaotic. Anakin leads a squadron of Jedi starfighters against the Imperial Remnant fleet, his piloting skills as sharp as ever. He weaves through turbo-laser fire, his connection to the Force guiding him around danger. Behind him, other Jedi follow, their combined presence in the Force creating a web of awareness that lets them anticipate enemy movements. But Tarkin's forces are well commanded, and they're not fighting with the hesitation that moral doubts might create. They believe in their cause completely. On the ground, Obi-Wan coordinates with Republic clone units that have maintained their loyalty to democratic principles. Commander Cody is among them, having managed to remove his inhibitor chip with the help of sympathetic medical personnel. He fights alongside Obi-Wan now, determined to make amends for the betrayal he was forced to commit. Together, they organize defensive positions around the Senate building, preparing for the inevitable assault. The battle rages through the streets of Coruscant, clone trooper against clone trooper, Republic forces against Imperial Remnant forces. It's a civil war in miniature, a preview of what the galaxy could become if this conflict isn't resolved. Civilians flee the fighting, streaming through the corridors and skyways as blaster fire lights up the capital. This is what Palpatine wanted. This chaos, this destruction. Even in death, his corruption threatens to tear the Republic apart. Inside the Senate building, Padme feels the first contractions. The stress of the siege, the physical demands of her pregnancy. It's all coming to a head at the worst possible moment. She tries to hide it, tries to keep functioning, but Bail sees her discomfort and immediately calls for medical assistance. A medical droid escorts her to a secure chamber deeper in the building, away from the fighting. Mon Mothma takes over coordinating the defense while Bail stays with Padme, refusing to leave her alone. Anakin feels her distress through their bond. He's in the middle of a dogfight, 3 Imperial fighters on his tail, but suddenly all he can think about is Padme. She's in labor. She's in danger. She needs him. The old fear rises up, the nightmare of losing her. But then he remembers Yoda's words. He remembers why he's fighting, not out of fear, but out of love. Not to possess or control, but to protect and trust. Obi-Wan, Padme's gone into labor. She's in the Senate building. Then go to her, Anakin. We'll handle things here. But the battle. You need every pilot, and your wife needs you. Your children need you. We fought this war by putting duty before love, and look where it got us. Go. Be with your family. Trust in the Force and trust in us. Anakin breaks off from the engagement, his fighter screaming toward the Senate building. Behind him, the other Jedi cover his escape, their fighters forming a protective screen. He lands in a restricted docking bay and races through the corridors, following his connection to Padme. The sound of blaster fire echoes through the halls, but he doesn't stop. Nothing matters except reaching her. He finds her in a medical chamber, her face contorted with pain as contractions rack her body. Bail Organa stands guard at the door, his blaster pistol at the ready. The senator nods to Anakin as he enters, understanding that this moment is more important than any battle outside. Anakin kneels beside Padme, taking her hand. Her grip is crushing, but he doesn't care. She's alive. She's strong. She's going to survive this. Anakin, you came. I'll always come for you. Always. Outside, the battle reaches its climax. Tarkin's forces have pushed to the Senate building's entrance, but they're met with fierce resistance from Obi-Wan's defenders. The Jedi Master stands at the forefront, his lightsaber deflecting blaster bolts and his presence in the Force bolstering the troops around him. He doesn't fight with anger or hatred. He fights with determination, with the conviction that what they're defending is worth the cost. Above them, a new fleet drops out of hyperspace. For a moment, both sides freeze, uncertain whether these newcomers are reinforcements or a new threat. Then the ship's identifications become clear. Former separatist vessels, now flying neutral flags. Mina Bonteri's voice crackles over the open channels, broadcast to both Imperial and Republic forces. This is Captain Bonteri of the Free World's fleet. We represent the Outer Rim systems that have chosen peace over war. We will not allow any faction to impose its will by force. Tarkin's Imperial remnant does not speak for the galaxy, and we will defend the Republic's right to determine its own future. Stand down immediately or face our combined strength. The arrival of the Free World's fleet turns the tide. Tarkin, watching from his command ship, realizes his gamble has failed. He doesn't have the forces to fight both the Republic defense and the Separatist reinforcements. With cold calculation, he orders a retreat. His ships begin pulling back, covering their withdrawal with heavy fire. He's lost this battle, but he's not defeated. The Imperial remnant will regroup, will find new allies, will try again. This isn't over. As the Imperial forces retreat, a cheer goes up from the Republic defenders. They've held the line. They've protected democracy, at least for now. But the victory is bittersweet. The casualties are heavy, and the knowledge that so many of their fellow citizens are willing to abandon democracy for security weighs on them all. In the medical chamber, Padme gives birth. First a boy, then a girl. Luke and Leia Skywalker enter the galaxy not in tragedy but in hope. Anakin holds them both, tears streaming down his face as he marvels at their tiny forms. He's overwhelmed with love, with gratitude, with the profound realization that he nearly threw all of this away in pursuit of power he didn't need. Padme smiles weakly, exhausted but alive, reaching out to touch her children. They're beautiful, just like you promised. They're perfect, and so are you. Bail Organa enters the chamber, his expression softening at the sight of the newborns. He's witnessed a miracle today, both the birth of these children and the survival of the Republic itself. He knows that there are difficult days ahead, reforms to implement, wounds to heal, enemies to face. But for this moment, he lets himself feel hope. What will you name them? Like and Leia. Their mother chose the names. They're good names, strong names. They'll grow up in a better galaxy than this one. We'll make sure of it. In the following weeks, the Republic begins its transformation. The Senate implements sweeping reforms, rolling back the emergency powers that Palpatine accumulated and restoring checks and balances. A new position is created. First Senator, elected by the full Senate rather than appointed. Mon Mothma is chosen for the role, her integrity and dedication making her the obvious choice. She doesn't have the dictatorial powers of a chancellor, but rather serves as a coordinator. The military undergoes massive restructuring. Clone troopers are offered a choice. They can remain in service or they can retire with full benefits and support for transitioning to civilian life. Many choose to leave, seeking to build lives beyond war. Those who remain have their inhibitor chips removed and are retrained with an emphasis on ethics and civilian oversight. The position of Supreme Commander is abolished, replaced by a military council that reports directly to the Senate. The Jedi Order continues its own reforms. Smaller temples are established on dozens of worlds, with Jedi living among the people they serve rather than isolated on Coruscant. The prohibition on attachment is re-examined, with new guidelines that distinguish between possessive attachment and healthy love. Jedi are encouraged to maintain connections with their birth families and to form strong bonds with their communities. The goal is not to create emotionless monks, but wise counselors who understand the full spectrum of sentient experience. Anakin becomes a symbol of the new Jedi Order. He openly lives with his family, raising Luke and Leia while continuing his duties as a Jedi. Some of the older, more conservative Jedi disapprove, but they cannot deny the results. Anakin is stronger than ever in the Force, more centered, more focused. His students, including his own children as they grow, learn to balance their emotions rather than suppress them. It's a new philosophy for a new era. The Free World's fleet, as the former separatist systems call themselves, negotiates a new relationship with the Republic. They don't rejoin as conquered territories, but as autonomous partners in a galactic federation. Each system retains significant independence, but they're bound together by mutual defense pacts and free trade agreements. The Senate becomes more of a forum for negotiation between sovereign systems than a central government imposing its will. But the Imperial remnant remains a threat. Tarkin and his followers retreat to the unknown regions, building their strength and refining their ideology. They believe that democracy is weakness, that only through authoritarian control can the galaxy achieve true peace and order. They see the Republic's reforms as proof of its decay, its willingness to compromise as evidence of its unsuitability to govern. They will return, not today, not tomorrow, but eventually. And when they do, they will be stronger and more dangerous than before. 5 years pass. The galaxy has not achieved perfect peace, but it has achieved something perhaps more valuable: genuine progress. The wounds of the Clone Wars are slowly healing. Former Separatist and Republic systems trade freely, their peoples beginning to see each other not as enemies, but as fellow citizens of the galaxy. The Jedi, now numbering several thousand again with new initiates joining from across known space, serve as mediators and advisors rather than warriors. On Coruscant, now the capital of the Galactic Federation rather than the Galactic Republic, Anakin Skywalker stands in a training courtyard watching his children play. Luke is energetic and adventurous, always testing boundaries and exploring new possibilities. Leia is thoughtful and determined, already showing signs of the leader she will become. They're both strong in the Force, but they're being raised differently than Anakin was. They know love, they know family. They know that their power is meant to serve others, not dominate them. Padme approaches, now serving as senator from Naboo and one of Mon Mothma's most trusted advisors. She's been instrumental in crafting the new federal constitution, ensuring that the mistakes of the old republic are not repeated. She stands beside Anakin, watching their children with pride. Do you ever think about how different things could have been if you'd made different choices that day? Every day, I came so close to falling, so close to losing everything that matters, but I didn't. And now look at what we have. A chance. Not a guarantee, but a chance to build something better. Obi-Wan joins them, his hair showing more gray than it once did, but his presence in the Force as strong as ever. He's been spending most of his time at the new Jedi Temple on, working with a new generation of Padawans. He smiles at Luke and Leia, remembering when he first met their father all those years ago on Tatooine. They're growing so fast, soon they'll be ready for more formal training. Not too soon, I hope. Let them be children a little longer. You're a good father, Anakin. Better than you give yourself credit for. I had good teachers. You showed me loyalty and friendship. Padme showed me love, and Master Yoda showed me wisdom. I'm just trying to pass those lessons on. In the distance, the sun sets over, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. The city gleams in the fading light, a testament to what the galaxy can achieve when people choose cooperation over conflict. But on the horizon in the unknown regions, Tarkin's forces continue to build. The Empire may not have risen in the way Palpatine intended, but the impulse toward authoritarianism, toward trading freedom for security, remains strong. The battle for the Republic's soul is not over. It will never be over. Every generation must choose whether to defend democracy or submit to tyranny. But for now, in this moment, the choice has been made. The Republic survived not because it was perfect, but because enough people believed it was worth saving. It survived because Anakin Skywalker chose love over fear. Because Mace Windu struck down a Sith Lord before his plans could fully unfold? Because senators like Padme and Bail refused to let democracy die without a fight? It survived because clone troopers overcame their programming to choose freedom. Because former enemies became allies in defense of self-governance. Yoda appears in the courtyard, moving slowly with his Gymer stick, but his presence commanding respect from everyone nearby. The ancient Jedi Master watches Luke and Leia for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he turns to Anakin and speaks quietly. Taught you something important, this experience has. The prophecy of the Chosen One, misread it was. Thought we did that balance meant destroying the Sith. But balance is more than this. Balance is choice. The freedom to choose light or dark, good or evil. And choosing light again and again, even when the dark calls to us. So I wasn't supposed to destroy the Sith? I was supposed to choose not to become one. Both, perhaps. Or neither. Prophecies are tricky things, young Skywalker. See the future they may, but understand it they do not. What matters is not destiny, but the choices we make each day. And a good choice you made. A choice that saved not just yourself, but the galaxy. Ahsoka Tano arrives on Coruscant later that evening, having spent the past 5 years rebuilding networks of support across the Outer Rim. She left the Jedi Order before its fall, disillusioned with how it had become entangled with the Republic's military. But seeing how the Order has changed, seeing Anakin with his family, seeing Jedi once again serving as peacekeepers rather than warriors, she feels something she hasn't felt in years. Hope that maybe, just maybe, she made the right choice in maintaining her connection to the Force. Anakin embraces his former Padawan, and for a moment they're not master and apprentice, but simply two people who survived impossible odds and came out the other side. They walk through the temple gardens, catching up on years of missed conversations. Ahsoka tells him about the work she's been doing, helping refugees resettle and mediating disputes between worlds that are still recovering from the war. You were right. Snips about the Order, about the war. We became something we were never meant to be. But you changed it, Sky Guy. You and the Council. The Jedi I see now, they're different. They're better. We had to be. We nearly destroyed ourselves by being too rigid. Now we're trying something new. It's messy and uncertain, but at least it's honest. I heard you're taking on new students. Actual Padawans, plural. That's ambitious. Luke and Leia will need training eventually. And there are others. Children from across the galaxy who are Force-sensitive and need guidance. I want to teach them differently than I was taught. I want them to understand that the Force isn't about denial or suppression. It's about harmony, understanding all emotions, not just the ones we deem acceptable. That sounds like something a certain Togruta tried to tell you once, and it only took me a decade and nearly falling to the dark side to figure out you were right. They share a laugh, but it's cut short by an urgent communication. Mon Mothma's hologram appears, her expression grave. An emergency session of the Federal Senate has been called. Reports are coming in from the unknown regions. The Imperial Remnant has made contact with an unknown power. Something old, something dangerous. Tarkin is no longer acting alone. The Jedi Council convenes immediately. Obi-Wan, Yoda, Mace Windu, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and several other masters gather around the holotable as intelligence reports stream in. The news is disturbing. Tarkin's forces have discovered something in the unknown regions, an ancient Sith cult that survived the rule of two. They call themselves the Sith Eternal, and they've been waiting in the shadows for centuries, building their power and biding their time. More concerning are reports that this cult possesses forbidden Sith alchemy and technology. They've been experimenting with cloning, with dark side artifacts, with weapons that could threaten entire star systems. Tarkin has allied with them, offering the resources of the Imperial Remnant in exchange for their knowledge and power. Together they represent a threat that could eclipse even Palpatine's empire. Sensing a great disturbance, I am. Old darkness awakened. More dangerous than Sidious this may be. Then we need to prepare. Not for war necessarily, but for the possibility. We can't let ourselves be caught off guard again. But we also can't abandon everything we've built. If we militarize the Jedi again, if we turn the Federation into a war machine, we become what we fought against. Padme enters the chamber, her presence commanding immediate attention. She's accompanied by Bail Organa and several other key senators. They've been monitoring the same intelligence, and they have proposals for how the Federation should respond. Not with premature aggression, but with measured preparation and diplomatic outreach. We should send ambassadors to the unknown regions, not to Tarkin's forces, but to the independent systems in that area. If this Sith eternal cult is as dangerous as the reports suggest, they'll need allies. We should offer them membership in the Federation, protection and support in exchange for cooperation. And what if they refuse? What if they choose to join the Imperial Remnant instead? Then we'll have tried. We'll have offered them a choice. That's all we can do. We can't force people to accept democracy. We can only demonstrate that it's worth choosing. The Senate approves Padme's proposal, and a diplomatic mission is organized. Bail Organa volunteers to lead it, accompanied by several Jedi, including Obi-Wan. It's a risky mission, venturing into largely uncharted space where Imperial Remnant forces are operating. But it's the kind of risk that democracy requires. The willingness to extend a hand, even when it might be rejected. While the diplomatic mission prepares to depart, Anakin focuses on his students. Luke and Leia are still too young for formal training, but there are others. Refugees from the Clone Wars, children who lost their families and discovered their Force sensitivity in the midst of tragedy. He teaches them not just lightsaber combat and Force techniques, but philosophy and ethics. He shares his own struggles with them, his near fall to the dark side, his journey back to the light. One student in particular shows great promise. A young human named Ezra Bridger, orphaned during the war when his parents spoke out against Palpatine's policies. He's strong in the Force, but carries deep anger and pain. Anakin sees himself in the boy and takes special care with his training. He shows Ezra that anger can be acknowledged without being controlled by it, that pain can be transmuted into compassion rather than hatred. During a training session in the Coruscant Temple, Ezra struggles with a particularly difficult exercise. He's supposed to maintain emotional balance while being bombarded with disturbing images through the Force. It's meant to prepare Jedi for psychological warfare and dark side manipulation. But Ezra keeps failing, his anger flaring up and disrupting his connection to the Force. "I can't do this, Master Skywalker. Every time I try to let go of the anger, it just comes back stronger." "That's because you're trying to let go of it. Instead, try accepting it. Acknowledge that the anger is there, that it's part of you. You lost your parents. You have every right to be angry about that. But you don't have to let that anger control you. The Jedi always taught us to purge emotions, to be at peace, and look where that got them." "No, Ezra, the old way was wrong. Emotions aren't the enemy. Denial is. You can be angry and still be a Jedi. You can grieve and still serve the light. You just have to understand your emotions rather than suppress them." Ezra tries again, this time not fighting against his feelings but observing them with detachment. He feels the anger rise but doesn't feed it or fear it. He simply lets it exist alongside his other emotions, his love for his lost parents, his determination to honor their memory, his hope for a better future. Gradually, the turbulence in his connection to the Force calms. He opens his eyes and smiles. "I did it, you did, and that's a lesson that took me far too long to learn. You're already ahead of where I was at your age." In the Senate chamber, Mon Mothma addresses a gathering of representatives from across the Federation. The topic is the growing threat from the Imperial Remnant and the Sith Eternal. Some senators call for immediate military action, a preemptive strike to destroy this threat before it can grow stronger. Others argue for continued diplomacy and patience. The debate is heated but civil, a testament to how far the Federation has come. Padme speaks eloquently about the dangers of fear-based policymaking. She reminds the Senate how Palpatine used fear to accumulate power, how the promise of security was used to justify the erosion of freedom. She argues that rushing into war would be playing into the Imperial Remnant's hands, giving them the enemy they need to justify their authoritarian ideology. But Senator Garm Bel Iblis of Corellia counters with equally compelling arguments. The Sith Eternal isn't a theoretical threat. They're real, they're dangerous, and they're allying with forces that want to destroy everything the Federation stands for. Waiting too long, being too cautious, could result in a catastrophe that makes the Clone Wars look like a minor skirmish. The Senate remains divided, unable to reach consensus. Finally, Mon Mothma calls for a compromise. The Federation will not launch a preemptive military strike, but it will begin modest military preparations. The Jedi will increase their training of new knights. The Federation Navy will conduct exercises near the unknown regions, and most importantly, the diplomatic mission will proceed. Give peace every possible chance, but be prepared if it fails. The diplomatic convoy departs Coruscant with great ceremony. Bail Organa's ship is accompanied by two others carrying Jedi advisors and representatives from various Federation worlds. They're not heavily armed, but they're not defenseless either. The journey to the unknown regions will take weeks, passing through neutral space and skirting the edges of Imperial remnant territory. During the journey, Obi-Wan spends much of his time in meditation. He reaches out through the Force, trying to sense what lies ahead. What he finds troubles him. There's a great darkness in the unknown regions, but it's not unified. The Sith Eternal are powerful, yes, but they're also fractured. Ancient rivalries and competing philosophies divide them. Perhaps there's an opportunity there. A chance to drive a wedge between them and Tarkin's Imperial remnant. He shares his insights with Bail during a private meeting in the Senator's quarters. The two men have become close friends over the years, bound together by their shared commitment to preserving democracy. They discuss strategy, considering how to approach the various factions they might encounter. It's agreed that they should avoid the appearance of weakness while remaining open to genuine dialogue. We're walking a tightrope. Too aggressive, and we'll push them toward Tarkin. Too accommodating, and they'll see us as weak. Then we'll have to trust in the Force and in each other. We've faced impossible odds before and prevailed. We can do so again. As the convoy approaches the first independent system in the unknown regions, they're intercepted by a patrol of unfamiliar ships. The designs are ancient, predating the Republic by millennia, but they're well-maintained and clearly battle-ready. A communication comes through, demanding to know their intentions. Bail responds calmly, explaining that they come as ambassadors of the Galactic Federation, seeking dialogue and potential alliance. There's a long pause, during which Obi-Wan senses the patrol ship's crews debating among themselves. Finally, a response comes. They will be escorted to the planet Zakul, where the ruling Eternal Alliance will hear their petition. Any hostile action will result in their immediate destruction. Bail accepts the terms, and the convoy proceeds under armed escort. Zakul is unlike anything they've seen before. The planet is a mix of ancient architecture and advanced technology, with towering spires that seem to defy gravity. The population appears to be human, or near human, but their culture is distinctly different from anything in the known galaxy. They're escorted to a palace where they're greeted by the Alliance's leaders, a council of former Sith and Jedi who broke away from their respective orders centuries ago. The council leader, a woman named Senya Taral, welcomes them with cautious courtesy. She explains that the Eternal Alliance has maintained its independence for generations, refusing to join either the Republic or any Sith Empire. They've heard of the Galactic Federation's formation and are intrigued but wary. Too many times they've been approached by powers from the known galaxy who wanted to conquer or exploit them. Bail and Obi-Wan spend days in negotiations, gradually building trust. They share the history of the Clone Wars, Palpatine's manipulation, and the Federation's efforts to build something better. Senya listens carefully, asking probing questions and testing the sincerity of their words. She's particularly interested in the Jedi's reforms, the acknowledgement that the old order's rigidity contributed to its near destruction. Finally, Senya makes a proposal. The Eternal Alliance will not join the Federation, not yet, but they will establish formal diplomatic relations and agree to oppose the Imperial. But unlike the Republic that came before, unlike the Jedi Order that served it, the Federation and the new Jedi are prepared to adapt. They've learned that perfection is impossible, that eternal peace is a fantasy. What matters is having the wisdom to recognize when change is needed and the courage to implement it. They've learned that democracy is not a destination but a journey, requiring constant vigilance and endless effort. Back on Coruscant, Anakin receives word of the diplomatic mission's initial success. He's pleased but not surprised. He's always had faith in Obi-Wan and Bail, in their ability to find peaceful solutions even in the most difficult circumstances. He shares the news with Padme over dinner, watching as Luke and Leia play nearby. They're using the Force instinctively now, levitating their toys and giggling with delight. Do you think they'll be safe in the galaxy we're building for them? I think they'll be challenged. I think they'll face dangers we can't imagine, but they'll also have something we didn't. They'll have a Federation that's willing to learn from its mistakes. They'll have a Jedi Order that embraces the full spectrum of emotion, and they'll have parents who love them and will always be there for them. That's not a guarantee of safety. No, but it's the best we can offer. The galaxy will never be perfectly safe, but it can be a place where people have the freedom to build their own lives, to make their own choices. That's worth protecting. In the unknown regions, Grand Moff Tarkin reviews intelligence reports from his network of spies. He's learned of the diplomatic mission's partial success, of the Eternal Alliance's decision to resist Imperial remnant expansion. It's a setback, but not a fatal one. He's patient. He understands that building an empire takes time. The Federation may have won this round, but the game is far from over. Beside him stands a figure in dark robes, face hidden beneath a hood. This is the representative of the Sith Eternal, a cultist who has promised Tarkin power beyond imagining. The figure speaks in a voice that seems to echo from distant depths. The Federation's Jedi have changed their ways. They are stronger than the old order. This complicates our plans. Tarkin smiles coldly. Everything complicates plans. That's why planning is worthless and adaptability is everything. Let them have their reformed Jedi, their precious democracy. It won't save them. Democracy is inherently weak because it requires consensus. We require only will, and our will is absolute. You sound confident, Grand Moff, but the Skywalker lives. The Chosen One. His potential in the Force is limitless. Then we'll find a way to corrupt him, or kill him, or simply outlast him. Skywalker is mortal. The ideas we serve are eternal. Order, stability, the natural hierarchy of power. These will outlive any individual, no matter how powerful. The scene shifts to show the breadth of the Imperial Remnant's preparations. Hidden shipyards in the unknown regions are constructing warships based on ancient Sith designs. Training facilities are indoctrinating new generations of officers and soldiers in authoritarian ideology. Research stations are experimenting with dark side alchemy and forbidden technologies. Tarkin is building not just an army, but an entire civilization based on militaristic values. Years continue to pass. Luke and Leia grow from toddlers to children to young teenagers. They train under their father's guidance, learning not just the Force, but philosophy, history, and ethics. Anakin ensures they understand the mistakes of the past so they won't repeat them. He tells them about Palpatine, about his own near fall, about the importance of choosing light over darkness every single day. Luke is naturally inclined toward the light, his optimism and faith seemingly unshakable. But Anakin worries about Leia. She's powerful, more so than Luke in many ways, but she also carries a darker edge. She questions everything, challenges authority, and isn't afraid to use aggressive tactics when she believes they're justified. Anakin sees himself in her and works carefully to guide her without being overbearing. During one training session, Leia confronts him about the Imperial Remnant. She's been studying the reports, understanding the threat they pose, and she can't understand why the Federation hasn't taken more aggressive action. We know where they are. We know what they're planning. Why are we waiting for them to attack us? Why don't we strike first? Because that's what Palpatine would have done. Strike first, eliminate threats before they fully manifest. It sounds logical, but it's a path that leads to tyranny. Who decides what constitutes a threat? Who determines when preemptive action is justified? But people are going to die because we're too cautious. Systems that could have been saved will fall to the Imperial Remnant because we're too concerned with being morally pure. You're not wrong. People will die because of our caution. But people would also die if we abandoned our principles. The question is, what kind of galaxy do we want to live in? One where might makes right and the strong impose their will on the weak? Or one where we try, imperfectly, to govern ourselves according to shared values? Leia isn't satisfied with the answer, but she accepts it for now. Anakin recognizes that she'll have to come to her own understanding, just as he did. He can guide her, but he can't force enlightenment. That's not how the Force works. That's not how life works. On the diplomatic front, Bail Organa's mission continues to bear fruit. More systems in the unknown regions establish relations with the Federation, creating a buffer zone between the Imperial Remnant and the known galaxy. It's not a perfect solution, but it buys time. Time for the Federation to strengthen, for the new Jedi to train more knights, for democratic values to take deeper root. But Tarkin is also using the time well. Reports indicate that the Imperial Remnant's fleet has tripled in size. Their technology is advancing rapidly, incorporating both modern innovations and ancient Sith designs. Most concerning are reports of superweapons being constructed. Nothing as crude or obvious as Palpatine's Death Star plans, but weapons designed to destabilize governments, spread fear, and break the will to resist. The Jedi Council debates how to respond. Some argue for a more proactive stance, sending Jedi into Imperial Remnant territory to sabotage their weapons programs. Others insist that such actions would violate the Jedi's role as peacekeepers and risk starting the very war they're trying to prevent. The debate grows heated, revealing tensions that never fully disappeared, despite the Order's reforms. Yoda, now ancient even by his species' standards, intervenes with wisdom born of centuries. Learned we have that rigid adherence to a code leads to brittleness. but learned we must also that complete relativism leads to chaos. A middle path we must find. Act we shall, but carefully and with full transparency to the Senate. Not warriors are we, but neither are we passive observers. Peacekeepers we remain, but sometimes keeping peace requires confronting those who would shatter it. The Council agrees to a compromise. A small team of Jedi, including Anakin and Ahsoka, will infiltrate Imperial Remnant territory. Their mission is not to sabotage or attack, but to gather intelligence and, if possible, make contact with dissidents within the Imperial Remnant. Tarkin's authoritarian regime is not universally popular. There must be people within it who question, who doubt, who might be persuaded to defect or resist. The mission is dangerous, requiring the team to travel deep into hostile territory. They use an unmarked freighter and fake identification documents posing as independent traders. Anakin finds himself back in the role he once played as a young Padawan, infiltrating enemy territory and relying on his wits as much as his lightsaber. It feels both familiar and strange, echoing adventures he had with Obi-Wan decades ago. They make contact with their first potential dissident on an Imperial Remnant-controlled industrial world. She's a factory supervisor named Arinda Price, a woman who rose through the Imperial ranks through competence and ruthlessness. But she's grown disillusioned with the regime, seeing how its policies crush the people they claim to protect. She agrees to meet with Anakin in a secluded location, though she's clearly wary of a trap. Why should I trust you? You're a Jedi. You represent everything the Empire stands against. I represent choice, the freedom to determine your own path. You've seen what the Imperial Remnant does, how it treats people as resources to be exploited. Is that really the future you want? What I want is irrelevant. The Empire is inevitable. Democracy failed. The Republic fell apart the moment Palpatine was removed. Your Federation is held together by hope and good intentions. Those are not foundations strong enough to withstand real pressure. You're wrong. The Federation isn't held together by hope alone. It's held together by people like you, people who see the flaws in the system and work to fix them rather than abandon democracy entirely. You could help us. You have access to Imperial intelligence, weapons development, strategic planning. And if I betray the Empire, they'll kill me. Slowly and publicly, as an example to others. They'll kill you eventually anyway. Tarkin doesn't tolerate dissent, even internal dissent. The moment you're no longer useful, you'll be discarded. At least with us, you have a chance at a real life. Price considers his words carefully. She's not idealistic enough to believe in the Federation's vision of democracy, but she's pragmatic enough to recognize that the Imperial Remnant offers her no real future. Finally, she agrees to provide information, though she refuses to defect immediately. She'll act as a mole, feeding intelligence to the Jedi while maintaining her cover. It's incredibly risky, but she's willing to take that risk. Over the following months, Price provides invaluable intelligence. She reveals the locations of Imperial weapons facilities, the names of key officers who might be vulnerable to persuasion, and most importantly, information about the Sith Eternal's plans. The cultists are not loyal to Tarkin. They're using him, just as they've used others throughout history. They have their own agenda, one that involves resurrecting ancient Sith rituals and unleashing dark side energies on a galactic scale. The intelligence allows the Federation to prepare more effectively. Defensive measures are implemented. Vulnerable systems are reinforced. And slowly, carefully, the Jedi begin making contact with other dissidents within the Imperial Remnant. It's painstaking work, building networks of resistance one person at a time. But it's effective. The monolithic facade of Imperial unity begins to show cracks. Tarkin, of course, is not blind to this threat. His security forces launch purges, rooting out suspected traitors with ruthless efficiency. Price nearly gets caught several times, saved only by her quick thinking and the Jedi's timely interventions. The game of intelligence and counterintelligence intensifies, with both sides scoring victories and suffering losses. On Coruscant, Mon Mothma addresses the Senate with grave news. Intelligence indicates that the Imperial Remnant is preparing for a major offensive. They're not ready yet, but within a year or two, they'll have the strength to challenge the Federation directly. The Senate must decide. Continue the current strategy of cautious preparation, or take more aggressive action to disrupt Imperial plans while there's still time. The debate that follows is passionate and revealing. Some senators, particularly those from worlds that suffered greatly during the Clone Wars, argue for immediate military action. Others, including Padme, contend that such action would make the Federation no better than the Empire it opposes. The fundamental question emerges: Can democracy defend itself without becoming what it fights against? Eventually, a compromise is reached. The Federation will not launch a preemptive war, but it will authorize limited special operations to disrupt Imperial weapons programs and support internal resistance. The Jedi will play a key role in these operations, but they'll be operating under Senate oversight with clearly defined rules of engagement. It's a middle path, neither purely pacifist nor aggressively militaristic. Anakin is chosen to lead many of these operations. He's reluctant at first, remembering how the Jedi became too entangled with military leadership during the Clone Wars. But Obi-Wan convinces him that this is different. They're not commanding armies or making strategic decisions about the war. They're conducting focused operations with specific objectives, always accountable to civilian authority. It's closer to the Jedi's traditional role than anything they did during the Clone Wars. One operation takes Anakin deep into Imperial space to destroy a facility developing biological weapons. The mission requires him to work alongside a team that includes Ahsoka, Ezra Bridger, now a full Jedi Knight, and surprisingly Captain Rex, who came out of retirement specifically for this mission. The old clone commander has lost much of his physical prowess, but his tactical mind remains sharp. The facility is heavily guarded, built into an asteroid in a remote system. Getting in requires navigating a minefield, avoiding patrol ships, and bypassing multiple layers of security. But Anakin's team is skilled and motivated. They infiltrate the facility, plant charges to destroy the biological weapons stockpile, and begin their extraction. Everything goes according to plan until they're discovered. Alarms blare as Imperial forces converge on their position. Anakin and his team fight their way toward their extraction point, but they're outnumbered and outgunned. Rex takes a blaster bolt to the shoulder, slowing him down. Ezra stays behind to cover their retreat, insisting that the mission is more important than any individual life. Anakin refuses to leave him, and together they hold the corridor while Ahsoka gets Rex to safety. Just when it seems they'll be overwhelmed, reinforcements arrive. Not from the Federation, but from within the Imperial facility itself. Arinda Pryce has revealed herself, leading a group of sympathetic Imperial personnel in a revolt. They provide covering fire, allowing Anakin and Ezra to escape. But Pryce knows she can never return to her old life. She boards the extraction ship with them, officially defecting to the Federation. The mission's success provides a morale boost for the Federation, but it also escalates tensions with the Imperial remnant. Tarkin publicly condemns the attack as terrorism, using it to justify his own military buildup. He paints the Federation as hypocrites, claiming to value peace while conducting military operations in sovereign Imperial territory. It's effective propaganda, particularly in systems that are war-weary and desperate for stability. The situation continues to deteriorate over the following year. Border skirmishes become more frequent. Imperial agents conduct sabotage operations within Federation space. Proxy conflicts erupt on neutral worlds as both sides try to expand their influence. It's not quite open war, but it's not peace either. The galaxy is sliding toward another major conflict, and no one seems able to stop it. Luke and Leia, now in their mid-teens, watch these developments with growing concern. They're nearly ready for their trials, nearly ready to become full Jedi Knights. But both of them understand that their knighthood will come just as the galaxy plunges into war. They'll immediately be called upon to serve, to risk their lives, to make impossible choices. The thought is daunting, but neither of them considers backing away. Anakin sits with his children one evening, looking out over the Coruscant skyline. The city is beautiful at night, a sea of lights extending to the horizon. But he knows that beauty is fragile. War could shatter it at any moment. He thinks about all the choices that led to this moment, about how close the galaxy came to falling into tyranny, about how hard so many people have worked to build something better. Are you afraid? It's Leia who asks the question, her voice quiet but steady. Anakin considers lying, offering reassurance that everything will be fine. But he's learned the importance of honesty, especially with his children, every day. I'm afraid of making the wrong choice, of failing to protect the people I love, of seeing this Federation we've built destroyed by the forces that want to replace it with tyranny. Fear is part of being alive, Leia. The question is what we do with that fear. What should we do with it? Luke asks this time, his blue eyes so much like his father's. Acknowledge it. Let it make you cautious without letting it control you. And most importantly, don't let fear drive you toward easy answers. Palpatine rose to power because people were afraid and he promised them security. Tarkin is doing the same thing now. If we respond with our own authoritarianism, if we abandon our values out of fear, then we've already lost. So we fight for what we believe in, even if it's harder. Even if we might lose, yes, that's exactly it. That's what it means to be a Jedi in this new order. We serve the light not because it guarantees victory, but because it's the right thing to do. The final confrontation begins not with a massive invasion, but with an act of terrorism. An Imperial agent detonates a bomb in the Coruscant Senate building, killing dozens of senators and staff members. The attack is meant to decapitate the Federation's leadership and throw it into chaos. It partially succeeds. Mon Mothma survives, but many key leaders die in the blast. The Federation reels from the attack. Some systems, frightened by the demonstration of Imperial reach, consider negotiating separate peace treaties with Tarkin. Others call for immediate and overwhelming military response. The unity that has held the Federation together begins to fracture under the pressure of fear and grief. But Padme, though injured in the blast, gives a speech that becomes a turning point. From her hospital bed, broadcast across the Federation, she speaks about the nature of democracy and the price of freedom. They want us to be afraid. They want us to abandon our values, to embrace the security of authoritarian rule. But security purchased with freedom is no security at all. It's a prison dressed up as protection. Yes, democracy is hard. Yes, it requires us to trust each other, to compromise, to sometimes accept outcomes we don't like. But the alternative is to let others make all our choices for us, to trade our agency for the illusion of safety. Every generation faces this choice. Every era has its would-be tyrants promising order and stability in exchange for absolute power. And every generation must decide whether to resist or submit. We stand here, wounded but unbroken, and we make our choice. We choose freedom. We choose democracy. We choose each other. And we will fight, for as long as it takes. The speech rallies the Federation. Systems that were wavering recommit to the alliance. Citizens volunteer for military service in numbers that surprise even the most optimistic projections. And the Jedi, led by Anakin and his children, prepare for the conflict they all know is coming. Tarkin watches Padme's speech with cold calculation. He recognizes that he's miscalculated. The bombing was meant to terrorize the Federation into submission, but it's had the opposite effect. He's galvanized their resolve, united them in opposition to him. He'll need to change tactics, to be more subtle in his approach. But first, he needs to deal with the Federation's military, to prove that their ideals cannot stand against Imperial strength. The Imperial remnant launches its offensive along multiple fronts simultaneously. Their goal is not to conquer the entire Federation, which would be impossible with their current forces, but to capture key strategic worlds and break the Federation's will to resist. They target shipyards, resource-rich systems, and politically significant planets. It's a lightning campaign meant to achieve maximum psychological impact. The battle for Corellia becomes the first major engagement of the war. The shipyards there are crucial to both sides. If the Imperial remnant captures them, they'll be able to dramatically accelerate their naval construction. The Federation sends everything it can spare to defend the system, including a significant Jedi contingent led by Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Luke. The space battle is brutal and chaotic. Modern warships clash with ancient Sith designs, creating a confused melee where tactics matter as much as firepower. Luke leads a fighter squadron, his natural piloting ability inherited from his father making him a terror to Imperial forces. But he lacks Anakin's raw aggression, instead relying on precision and teamwork. His squadron coordinates their attacks perfectly, covering each other and striking at Imperial weak points with surgical accuracy. On the ground, Leia commands a battalion of Federation troops defending the primary shipyard. She's a natural leader, inspiring confidence in her soldiers even as Imperial forces press their assault. Her connection to the Force allows her to anticipate enemy movements, positioning her troops perfectly to repel each attack. But the Imperial forces are relentless, and slowly they gain ground. Anakin coordinates the overall defense from the command ship, his presence in the Force linking together Jedi across the battlefield. It's a technique the New Order has developed, a form of battle meditation that doesn't control minds, but enhances coordination. Every Jedi in the system can feel each other through the Force, moving in harmony like a single organism. It's devastatingly effective, turning what should be a Federation defeat into a stalemate. But then the Sith Eternal reveal themselves. Three dark side users, cultists who have studied forbidden techniques for centuries, emerge from hyperspace on a stolen Republic cruiser. Their presence in the Force is overwhelming, a crushing darkness that disrupts Anakin's battle meditation. Jedi across the system stumble as their connection is severed, suddenly fighting as individuals rather than a coordinated whole. The three Sith make their way to the surface, targeting Leia's position. They know that killing Anakin's daughter will break him, will create an opening for the dark side to take hold. They remember the prophecies about the Chosen One, and they believe that turning him is the key to victory. They land in the middle of the shipyard, their crimson lightsabers igniting as they cut through Federation defenders. Leia senses them coming and orders her troops to fall back. She knows she's outmatched, that three fully trained Darksiders are beyond her abilities, but she also knows that if she retreats, the shipyard falls. She ignites her own lightsaber, the blade a brilliant blue, and advances to meet them. Her training with Anakin has prepared her for this moment, teaching her to use her fear without being consumed by it. The first Sith lunges at her with blinding speed, his blade seeking her heart. Leia deflects the strike and counters with a riposte that forces him back. The second Sith attacks from her flank, but she spins and blocks that attack as well. The third hangs back, channeling darkside energy for a devastating Force attack. Leia knows she has seconds before they overwhelm her. Then Ahsoka arrives, dropping from a gunship and landing between Leia and her attackers. The Togruta's dual lightsabers spin in a defensive pattern, holding the three Sith at bay. She's older now, her mantrals fully grown and her presence in the Force mature and powerful. She's spent years fighting in the shadows, and she's learned techniques that even the reformed Jedi Order doesn't teach. Get to your troops. Leia, I'll handle these three. You can't fight them alone. There are three of them. I'm not alone. I have the Force, and I have a very particular set of skills that these cultists are about to become intimately familiar with. Leia retreats to her command position while Ahsoka engages the three Sith. The battle is fierce and fast, lightsabers flashing in the smoke-filled air of the damaged shipyard. Ahsoka uses Jarkai, the dual blade style, to keep all three opponents engaged simultaneously. She can't defeat them, not alone, but she doesn't need to. She just needs to hold them until reinforcements arrive. In space, Anakin feels Ahsoka's struggle through the Force. He wants to go to her, to help his former Padawan. But he's needed here, coordinating the fleet battle. The Imperial forces are pushing hard, trying to break through the defensive line and reach the planet. If they succeed, they'll be able to bombard the shipyards from orbit, destroying them and killing everyone on the surface. Luke senses his father's conflict and makes a decision. He breaks off from his squadron and heads toward the surface, his fighter screaming through the atmosphere. His wingmates call after him, but he doesn't respond. His sister is in danger and nothing else matters. He lands near the battle site and races toward the sound of clashing lightsabers. He arrives to find Ahsoka wounded, one of her lightsabers lost, fighting desperately against the three Sith. Without hesitation, Luke ignites his green blade and charges into the fight. His arrival changes the dynamic immediately. The Sith must now divide their attention between two skilled opponents. Ahsoka uses the opening to recover, calling her lost lightsaber back to her hand through the Force. Together, Luke and Ahsoka fight with the coordination born of the Force. They don't need to speak or signal. Each knows where the other will be, what they'll do next. It's the battle meditation technique on a smaller scale, two Jedi moving as one. The Sith, for all their dark power, lack this unity. They fight as individuals, each seeking personal glory rather than collective victory. One of the Sith falls to Luke's blade, caught overextended in an aggressive lunge. The remaining two realize they're outmatched and attempt to retreat, but Ahsoka pursues. She's faster than they expect, enhanced by the Force and fueled by righteous anger. Her blades find their marks, and the two Sith fall. The dark side's presence diminishes, and across the system, Jedi feel the oppressive weight lift. With the Sith defeated, Anakin reestablishes the battle meditation. The Federation forces rally, their coordination restored. The Imperial fleet, having lost its dark side support, begins to falter. Tarkin, observing from his flagship in a neighboring system, realizes that the battle is lost. He orders a retreat, withdrawing his forces before they can be completely destroyed. The Battle of Corellia is a Federation victory, but it comes at a terrible cost in lives and resources. In the aftermath, Luke and Leia stand among the ruins of the shipyard, surrounded by the bodies of those who died defending it. They're exhausted, traumatized by their first real experience of war. Anakin finds them there and simply embraces them both. He doesn't offer platitudes or reassurances. He just holds his children, letting them know they're not alone. The war continues for months, a grinding conflict of attrition that neither side can decisively win. The Imperial Remnant has superior technology and centralized command, but the Federation has numbers and the moral authority that comes from defending rather than conquering. Battle after battle is fought across hundreds of worlds, with victories and defeats on both sides. But slowly, the tide begins to turn. The resistance network within the Imperial Remnant that Anakin helped build begins to bear fruit. Sabotage disrupts Imperial supply lines. Intelligence leaks reveal planned attacks, allowing the Federation to prepare defenses. Most importantly, defections begin to accelerate. Imperial personnel, seeing the brutality of Tarkin's regime and the alternative offered by the Federation, choose freedom over tyranny. Arinda Pryce becomes a key figure in this effort. Having defected herself, she understands the psychology of Imperial personnel and knows how to reach them. She broadcasts messages into Imperial space, sharing her story and explaining why she left. She doesn't paint the Federation as perfect, but as better. As a place where people have agency, where mistakes can be corrected, where change is possible. The defections create a crisis for Tarkin. He responds with increasing brutality, conducting purges and implementing surveillance that would make Palpatine proud. But this only accelerates the cycle, pushing more people toward defection. The Imperial Remnant begins to eat itself, paranoia and fear replacing discipline and unity. The Sith Eternal, watching this deterioration, decide that Tarkin has outlived his usefulness. They begin making their own plans, reaching out to Imperial off. The final major battle of the war takes place at Kuat, site of some of the galaxy's most important shipyards. Both sides commit everything they have to this engagement, understanding that whoever controls Kuat will have an insurmountable advantage. The system becomes a charnel house, with ships from both sides dying in their thousands. The battle rages for days, neither side willing to give ground. Anakin leads a strike team to infiltrate Tarkin's flagship directly, hoping to end the war by capturing or killing its architect. With him are Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, Luke, Leia, and a dozen other Jedi. They board the massive ship and fight their way toward the bridge, cutting through elite Imperial guards and dark side acolytes. The corridors run red with blood, and even the Jedi begin to wonder if this violence can ever truly lead to peace. They reach the bridge to find Tarkin waiting for them, calm and composed despite the chaos. He's flanked by the last of the Sith Eternal's representatives, Darksiders who have augmented themselves with Sith alchemy until they're barely human anymore. The Grand Moff regards the Jedi with cold amusement. "Skywalker, I wondered when you'd come. Did you really think I wouldn't anticipate this? You Jedi are so predictable, always seeking confrontation when negotiation fails. This ends now, Tarkin. Surrender and face justice, or die here. Justice. What justice would I face in your Federation? A show trial designed to legitimize your authority? No thank you. I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees." The Sith Eternal representatives attack without warning, their twisted bodies moving with unnatural speed. The battle that follows is unlike anything the Jedi have faced before. These aren't skilled duelists like Dooku or powerful Force users like Palpatine. They're abominations, creatures who have sacrificed their humanity for power. They channel darkside energy in ways that violate the natural order, creating attacks that shouldn't be possible. Obi-Wan faces one of them, his lightsaber defense barely keeping pace with the creature's relentless assault. Luke and Leia fight another together, their coordination keeping them alive but unable to gain the advantage. Anakin confronts the third while keeping one eye on Tarkin, not trusting the Grand Moff to stay out of the fight. The battle rages across the bridge, destroying control stations and killing the skeleton crew that remained. Tarkin watches with detached interest, as if observing an interesting experiment. He's accepted his death, understanding that his empire was always unlikely to succeed. But he takes satisfaction in knowing that he's proven his point. Democracy is fragile. It can be challenged. And even if it survives this time, eventually someone will succeed where he failed. Ahsoka strikes down her opponent with a perfectly executed overhead slash, then immediately turns to help Obi-Wan. Together, they overwhelm the second abomination. Their combined power too much for even its dark side enhancements to withstand. This leaves only the one facing Anakin, and it's the most powerful of the three. Anakin feels the pull of the dark side as he fights, the temptation to use his anger to fuel his strength. It would be so easy. He's afraid for his children, enraged at the death and destruction Tarkin has caused. The dark side whispers that he could end this instantly if he just let go, if he embraced his full power. But he remembers his training, remembers the lessons he's taught Luke and Leia. Power without principle is just tyranny in a different form. He takes a deep breath and centers himself in the Force. His lightsaber moves with perfect precision, not driven by emotion but guided by the Force itself. The abomination's attacks, so overwhelming moments before, now seem slow and predictable. Anakin deflects them effortlessly, waiting for the perfect moment. It comes and his blade finds its mark. The creature falls. Its unnatural life finally ended. Tarkin draws a blaster pistol, but Obi-Wan uses the Force to rip it from his hand before he can fire. The Grand Moff is now defenseless, surrounded by Jedi. For the first time, his composure cracks. He knows he's lost, that everything he built is about to crumble. But he refuses to show fear. You've won this battle, Skywalker, but you haven't won the war. Not the real war. Because the war isn't between your Federation and my Empire. It's between order and chaos, between strength and weakness. And that war will never end. There will always be someone like me, someone who sees democracy's failures and seeks to replace it with something stronger. You're right. There will always be people like you, but there will also always be people willing to resist you. That's what democracy is. Not a perfect system, but one that allows for resistance, for change, for the possibility that tomorrow can be better than today. Philosophical to the end. How very Jedi of you. Tarkin reaches into his pocket and for a moment the Jedi tense, thinking he has another weapon. But he pulls out a small detonator and smiles coldly. If I can't have my Empire, then neither of us will have anything. He triggers the detonator, and the flagship's reactor begins to overload. Alarms blare throughout the ship as the countdown to self-destruction begins. The Jedi have minutes, maybe less, to escape. Tarkin has chosen to die on his own terms, taking as many of his enemies with him as possible. The Jedi race through the corridors, Force-enhanced speed carrying them toward their boarding craft. Behind them, explosions begin to tear the ship apart. They reach their ship with seconds to spare, launching just as the flagship's reactor goes critical. The explosion is visible across the entire star system, a brilliant flash that marks the end of Tarkin's ambitions. With Tarkin dead and his flagship destroyed, the Imperial Remnant's command structure collapses. Some officers try to continue the fight, but most realize the futility and surrender. The Battle of Quat ends in a decisive Federation victory. Over the following weeks, the remaining Imperial forces are hunted down or convinced to surrender. The war is over, though its scars will take generations to heal. The Federation emerges from the conflict stronger but sobered. The easy optimism of the early years has been replaced by a more mature understanding of democracy's challenges. It's not enough to simply have democratic institutions. Those institutions must be constantly defended, constantly reformed, constantly adapted to new threats. Eternal vigilance isn't just a saying, it's a requirement. The Jedi Order also evolves through the crucible of war. They've maintained their role as peacekeepers and advisors rather than becoming generals again, but they've had to make difficult choices and accept that sometimes violence is necessary to prevent greater violence. The balance between pacifism and action, between principle and pragmatism, becomes a central focus of Jedi teaching going forward. 10 years after Tarkin's death, Luke and Leia Skywalker have become masters in their own right. Luke has established a new Jedi Academy on Yavin 4, taking students from across the galaxy and teaching them the reformed philosophy their father pioneered. His academy is known for its emphasis on compassion and emotional balance rather than detachment. Leia has taken a different path. While remaining a Jedi, she's become deeply involved in Federation politics, serving as a senator from Naboo following her mother's retirement. She's a powerful voice for reform, constantly pushing the Federation to live up to its ideals. Her dual role as Jedi and politician makes some uncomfortable, but she argues that the separation between Force users and governance was one of the old Republic's failures. Anakin, now in his 50s, has stepped back from active duty. He still serves on the Jedi Council and takes on occasional missions, but he spends most of his time with Padme, who has remained by his side through everything. They've become grandparents, as Luke has married and had children of his own. The Skywalker line continues, and with it, the hope that each generation can build something better than the last. On a quiet evening on Naboo, where Anakin and Padme have retired, they sit on their veranda watching the sunset. The Lake Country is as beautiful as ever, unchanged by the wars and conflicts that have reshaped the galaxy. They hold hands, comfortable in the silence that comes from decades of companionship. Do you have any regrets? Padme asks the question softly, not sure if she wants to hear the answer. Every day. I regret every life lost in the wars, every mistake I made, every moment I came close to falling. But I don't regret the path I chose. I don't regret you, or our children, or the life we've built together. Neither do I. We didn't create a perfect galaxy, but we created one where people have a chance. That's all we can really ask for. Yoda appears, walking slowly through their garden with his Gymer stick. The ancient Jedi Master is impossibly old now, near the end of even his species' lengthy lifespan. But his presence in the Force remains strong, a beacon of wisdom accumulated over nearly 9 centuries of life. Talking about regrets, you are? Good. Regret means learning, means growing. The old Jedi Order, no regrets did we have. Thought ourselves beyond mistake. That was our greatest error. You've changed too, Master. You're not the same Jedi who sat on the council when I was young. Change. We must, or die we do. The Force itself is balance, constant movement between light and dark, creation and destruction. To serve the Force, we must flow with that balance, not resist it. What happens now? To the Order? To the Federation? Continue, they will. Challenged, they will be. Each generation must fight its own battles, learn its own lessons. But the foundation, strong it is, built on choice, on freedom, on love. These endure, even when governments fall and orders crumble. That's not exactly reassuring, Master. Reassurance, you do not need. Truth you need. The galaxy will face dark times again. New threats will emerge, but so too will new heroes. Your children, your grandchildren, they will carry forward what you have begun. And when they falter, as they will, the Force will guide them, as it always has, as it always will. The sun sets completely, leaving them in darkness, broken only by the lights of distant cities. But it's not a frightening darkness. It's the natural cycle of day and night, of endings and beginnings. Somewhere in the galaxy, children are discovering their connection to the Force. Politicians are debating the Federation's future. Soldiers are standing watch. Teachers are passing on knowledge. And ordinary people are living their lives, making choices about the kind of galaxy they want to inhabit. The Republic never became an empire. Not because Palpatine's plan was impossible, but because enough people chose to resist. Anakin chose love over fear. Mace Windu chose action over hesitation. Padme chose truth over expedience. Bail Organa chose reform over status quo. And millions of nameless citizens chose democracy over tyranny, even when tyranny promised security. Their galaxy isn't perfect. Threats remain. The Imperial remnant may be defeated, but the impulse toward authoritarianism persists in human nature. The Sith Eternal are scattered but not destroyed. And even within the Federation, there are those who would trade freedom for power if given the chance. The work of maintaining democracy is never finished, but the difference between this galaxy and the one that might have been is the difference between hope and despair. In Palpatine's empire, citizens had no voice, no choice, no chance to shape their own futures. In the Galactic Federation, those things remain possible. Not guaranteed, but possible. And possibility is everything. That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.